From LPM,
Louisville Public Media.
Welcome to On Track. I'm Aisha Jaffer. Springtime is here, and if you're already reaching for the tissues, you're not alone. This season kicks up allergens, and for many of us, that can provide a few unwanted side effects. So what exactly makes this region such a hotspot for allergies? And most importantly, what can we do to breathe easier? To help us clear the air, we're joined by Dr. David Pallares, a board-certified allergist with family allergy and asthma and over 20 years of experience. He's a graduate of the University of South Carolina School of Medicine, and he completed his pediatrics residency at the University of Louisville and a fellowship in allergy and immunology at Henry Ford Hospital. He was named one of Louisville's top allergy doctors by Louisville Magazine in 2013 and 2017. Dr. Pallares, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So what is the window for allergy season in Louisville?
Well, over the past been 30 years or so, it's been changing and widening, partly, I think, because of the global warming. And it is a real thing. I mean, we're seeing it. And so what that means is the season starts earlier, it's heavier, it lasts longer. So the answer today, it's usually like March 1st. Through the beginning of November, which is around the first frost that we get. And
so it's huge. It's a huge season.
It's a huge season. That's correct.
What did it used to be traditionally that you remember?
It would start later in March, and the first frost would be October 1. So it's about a month extra now, I think, either way.
Yeah, that's significant, especially for those who struggle with the allergens.
Yeah.
So is there a month in that window that you feel it tends to be the worst for allergies? And if so, what makes that especially challenging?
I would say April would probably be one of the worst. I can't say it's definitely the worst. We're in the middle of the tree pollen season. Things are it's windy. Windy is always a bad thing for pollen, so things are floating around quite a bit. In September, we see a different type of a reaction with asthma, because asthma is largely induced from a lot of allergens, but also viral things. So kids in particular will have a lot of asthma hospitalizations in the middle of September because it's school starting, getting all the ragweed, getting all the infection. So that's kind of another peak that we see.
Is it more like in September, is there some sort of dispersal or anything that's sort of adding to that, or just more togetherness with the allergies?
I think together, all of those things, yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, one of the first things, because I'm new to Louisville, one of the first things that I heard moving to Louisville is that the allergies are really bad here because we're in the Ohio Valley. So can you explain, regionally what the Ohio Valley is and why this environment might contribute to our allergies?
The Ohio Valley you can think of as a large bowl, if you will. So whenever there's fronts and there's pollen blowing around, a lot of these allergens blow around for hundreds of miles. They're not just here. So if you cut a tree down in front of your yard you're allergic to, that's not going to do any good because these things are blowing out for 100 miles. So it's kind of a bowl effect, exactly what it seems like it is. A gigantic bowl in this Ohio Valley. So here, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, even Nashville, all these areas are pretty bad because the movement is not that great in terms of the allergens and also pollution as well. So pollution can also contribute to the allergy development. So
all of that stuff, because it's a bowl, it's sort of it floats around, it flies around hundreds of miles, but it then just settles into the bowl, right? That's true. So it makes it a little more concentrated, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Okay.
That's true.
Well, that's unfortunate.
That's unfortunate.
So is that the only thing that makes Louisville specifically stand out in terms of allergy severity, or is there other factors?
I think all of those things I mentioned, with the pollen and, again, the pollution as well. I mean, we don't see smog like in L.A., but it's a different type of pollution just from factories, exhaust fumes, diesel exhaust, and the pollen, all of those things kind of combined.
Yeah, and we're known to have some of the worst air quality, right? Mm-hmm. And so that, I assume, contributes to the allergens and the reactions.
The ozone, in the summer, the hot summers, the ozone, yeah.
Oh, wait, talk about that more.
Oh, okay. So we used to call them ozone action days, but I think they've changed it to these quality alert days. But anyway, it's really mostly ozone. So ozone peaks in the July, whenever there's a lot of stillness in the air and heat and humidity, and produces a lot air quality is horrible. People start wheezing or coughing because of those air quality alert is happening during that time.
So is it like the heat mixed with all the allergens, but also the pollution kind of like creates this thick, I'm going to say thickness in the air?
Yeah, or irritant quality to people tell us coughing or can't breathe or smother type symptoms.
I wonder if they changed the name ozone to air quality because it's less, I don't know. When you hear ozone, I feel like there's more like, urgency.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know.
I used to live in New Zealand. There's a hole above the ozone, so we had to wear sunblock all the time in case. But that's kind of an interesting factor I always thought was pretty intense.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely.
So when we talk about allergies, what's exactly causing these reactions? Like what specifically is causing these reactions that then in turn comes out with these symptoms?
It's the pollen. If it's in the spring, we're talking about trees. And grasses also produce pollen. Weeds, ragweed produce pollen. And so they're trying to germinate and produce more of the plants. But these pollens, we see them as foreign substances, and they have to be a certain size for us to be able to get them in their sinuses or in their lungs. So large things like daffodils or things that have like zinnias or whatever, they're too big. The allergens are too large. It's like a rock. They're not going to get in your in the sinuses and lungs. But these other ones are just so minute that you're getting it dispersed into the lung, and it's causing a foreign body kind of reaction. The body sees it as a foreign substance, and it starts to develop swelling, itching, runny nose, sometimes wheezing, depending on how long it gets in your lungs.
So is there one that's like more intense than the others, like tree pollen more than, I don't know, flower pollen?
No, I mean, classically, ragweed is the one that's kind of universal throughout the United States. There's western ragweed, there's middle western ragweed, Midwest ragweed, giant ragweed, and it is prevalent throughout the whole United States. The other ones are just multiple different kinds of trees and multiple different kinds of grasses. But ragweed is very well studied across the United States.
And then I'm curious, so are there any new or emerging allergens in the region that people should be aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. It's just the intensity, and then it's starting a lot earlier. But I'm not aware of any new ones that I would say per se. Now we are seeing, it's not really induced by pollen, just getting off the subject, but alpha-gal syndrome, which is a whole nother deal. But we are seeing a lot of that, and that's a mammalian meat allergy due from deer ticks. That can induce itching, swelling, and hives and things like that. But it's not something that you inhale. You have to ingest it to cause problems.
But still an allergen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's an allergic reaction,
that is correct.
For what I understand, from tick bite.
Yes.
Which, some people would think is a disease, but it's actually an allergic reaction.
That's true.
I have too much knowledge on ticks. We had a few tick experts in here not too long ago.
Okay. All right. There you go.
But that's one that's growing, too. And are you seeing that?
Yes. We're seeing a lot more of it. Yes.
Okay.
People outside more. I think COVID got people out more, hunting, hiking, whatever it may be.
So we were talking about, climate impact on allergy season and the range of that season. But what about things like winter had so many heavy snowfalls? We had some recent flooding. How do climate events like these impact pollen levels and maybe make allergy symptoms better or worse?
Not so much. I mean, these things it's like an avalanche. I mean, you can't stop an avalanche. I mean, these pollens are still pollinating no matter what is happening out there. It'd have to be a huge devastation to see a big major change.
Fair. And then when I'm thinking about our day, we were talking about wind, we were talking about like different things that are happening in this dispersal. Is there a time of day? Does that matter when pollen counts are higher or anything like that?
Yeah, there are some differences. The morning tends to be worse for tree pollen, and then the grass is worse in the afternoons. The night is always good. I mean, you have to have a flashlight, I guess, but the night is a very good time.
So if So if you want to get outside and you have strong allergies, night hiking might be the way to go.
Yeah, or running, jogging. I see people running at night in my neighborhood, so yeah.
Do you think that's due to allergies?
I don't know, but probably.
Oh, that's fascinating. I didn't think about that. Why is it? Why is it like the morning is for this or the afternoon is for this? Is there a reason?
It's the sun and the growing times. So
Oh.
that's what's just like a plant starts to grow more in the sun and in the oxygen and everything. So it's just pollinating more during those times.
So I'm thinking about people because I know gardening is huge here. Is there anything for people who have allergies, how they should maybe this is a little nitty gritty, but about like how they should think about planting their garden in a certain way or like where as to not influence their allergies too much, even though we are in this just collective bowl in general?
I'd say maybe mulch is one of the big things. Mulch has tons of mold in it. So and that's like I'm talking about like with cedar or bark or the natural type of mulches definitely do produce a lot of mold. There's also other kinds of like pebble mulch, which is nothing, and then there's rubber and some other things like that. So I do still recommend wearing the mask, just like with COVID. The N95 masks are very helpful. Not that comfortable, but they do work in terms of preventing some of the stuff that you're inhaling. It won't help much for the eyes, but you'd have to wear like goggles or whatever so it doesn't get directly into the eyes. But so minimizing, I'd say the mulch, and then again doing the evening type of activity for pruning or whatever you're doing can be more beneficial, I'd say.
So wait, are you saying also that the rubber mulch and the pebbles, are those any better than
They're
regular?
better, yeah, because there's
Okay.
no production of any kind of mold or anything going on there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's interesting to know. I know that we've got a lot of gardeners who listen. Now, we sort of talked about this. We talked about the air quality report. Are there any tools, resources, or indicators people can use to measure how severe allergens are in the air on any given day?
Yeah, there's a few apps over the years. The one that's still available is called Pollen Wise. It's a free app, and it tells you by season and by allergen, whether it's a tree or a grass or a pot or whatever, the time of day, how things are going up and down. I mean, I think it's very helpful, an app that I recommend using.
And then you said there's a clean air quality report as well?
Yes, that I think is part of that app as well.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
It's an all-in-one.
Yes.
Okay. And then we did talk about air pollution, too. And
air
I imagine,
pollution,
is that all factored in? Like, I'm imagining, we sort of talked about this, but that, exacerbates allergy symptoms. So, like, I guess when we're talking about poor air quality, would you recommend masks or any other ways to protect people?
The mask would be the easiest thing that's available, I'd say.
That's great. Well, we'll be back in a minute. You're on track with Louisville Public Media. Welcome back to On Track. I'm Aisha Jaffer, and we are talking about allergy season. What contributes to these relentless symptoms and how to make this season easier to manage with Dr. David Pallares, a board-certified allergist with family allergy and asthma. So we talked about some tools. We talked about kind of how this is all happening. And I'm just curious because this is something that I've heard before. And I don't know if this is a myth-buster question, but is it true that you can develop allergies as you age?
Oh, at any age, yes.
So is it like so not just as you get older, it could be younger too. So just
Any age.
what contributes to that? How does that happen?
It's usually two things. One is the genetics, so that is a big factor. And then second is the exposure. So you have to have the exposure and the genetics, and then the length of time of exposure also contributes to the development of the allergy.
Is there any known like general length of time in which that could break that?
I don't think so. So many variables, duration, length, and how high the pollen is and everything. So I think there's too many factors to know that for sure.
Are there any other ways that people can develop allergies outside of age and genetics and exposure?
No, those are the
main
things.
ones.
Yes.
Okay. Good to know. Good to be aware of. So can someone recognize if they're experiencing allergies for the first time? Like, what signs should they look for if they are someone who is just all of a sudden experiencing allergies and not sure that that's what it is?
Okay. So there's two types of what we call allergic reactions. The first phase of an allergic reaction is the sneezing, watery nose or watery eyes, itching of the nose, itchy eyes. And that can occur within the first few hours of exposure. And then there's a delayed reaction that can occur like at night or after you've been out all day, 6 to 10 hours later, which is more of like congestion, inflammation, drainage, those kind of symptoms. That's the big thing is congestion.
So when I'm thinking about that, it kind of reminds me of some of the respiratory illnesses as well, like COVID and the flu and the cold. How can someone distinguish between those allergies and those respiratory illnesses?
One myth is that people think they have a fever with allergies, and that's definitely not true. So people think, I've got a fever, and that's definitely not allergies if it's a true fever. And then the length of time of the symptoms, because cold and viruses last usually 7 to 10 days, and then they go away, while allergy symptoms tend to kind of keep on going. They may get better in the evening, maybe. But the symptoms, they respond to the antihistamines or the nasal sprays that we'll probably talk about. While if it's like a virus or a cold, it may not even improve at all with those kind of medications. So.
Yeah, okay. So it's a little bit of guess and check with treatment and time, and then you'll be like, ugh, this is this is now my life, which is hard. I understand. Is there any way, so looking at solutions, what are some of the most effective ways to reduce allergy symptoms, both indoors and outdoors? How can people create an allergy-friendly environment at home and in their daily lives?
If you've been out all day, showering, changing your clothes, don't hang out your things to dry, which I don't think people do that much anymore, but some people do. So just basically washing, is physically washing stuff off your body can be helpful. Don't leave the windows open because obviously the allergens are all floating around inside. Then wearing a mask also will be helpful for these kind of symptoms. And then there are certain medications that we can kind of go through that can be helpful. I can go through those if you want me to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there's basically 2 or 3 types of medications. The first one are the antihistamines, and that's something like Zyrtec, Allegra, Claritin, Zyzal. And they basically block histamine, and the response from a pollen is to release histamine and cause itching, runny nose, sneezing. But then there's also this congestion factor, which it doesn't do anything for that, and that would be like your nasal steroid sprays, like Flonase, Nasacort, Nasonex. But those have to be taken daily for them to be helpful. They don't work kind of in as needed. They have to be daily. And then there is also what's something called a leukotriene modifier, which is kind of an anti-inflammatory, but it's not a steroid, called Singulair or Montelukast, and that also has to be taken on a daily basis, and it can be taken in conjunction with all the other 2 things if you're really that bad. So the most common mistake I see people is coming in, taking their medicines as needed. They work a lot better taking them on a daily basis to prevent the release of the reactions that can occur.
So it's consistency is key in that process. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that people can do also just like within their home other than not opening the windows to like keep it allergen free?
There are different types of HEPA air purifiers. Number one, they're either units that are smaller or they can also go in your HVAC system to help filter or clean the air within the home. Air duct cleaning can be helpful if it's an older home or if it's never been done because there's a lot of dust and mold up in some of these things. More frequent cleaning. Most vacuum cleaners now have these HEPA filters at the exhaust, so you're not reblowing everything out into the home. Keeping everything more tidy and not so many things that are just distracting and everywhere, little knick-knack things. Cause a lot of dust and everything.
What about if you have pets?
So with pets, again, I still recommend the air purifiers, excluding from the bedroom as well. More frequent bathing will also help cut down on the allergen. Now, for cats, Purina has come out with a cat-reducing allergy food, which a lot of people are not aware of. It came out in 2021, right during COVID, and it reduces the allergen in the cat by half, so 50%, which is pretty good versus 0.
Wow.
And it works by coating the allergen in the saliva of the cat, so it does not become airborne. So it's a natural kind of a treatment, readily available in all the different like Chewy's or Petco, Feeder Supply kind of places. And I do recommend that a lot for my cat allergic patients.
Wow, that's quite a cool technology improvement to go through the cat. Mm-hmm. Well, so we're talking about allergies, we're talking about solutions, but if someone, they've gone through all these processes, and they're just still not aware they have allergies and they go untreated, can that lead to other health issues? For example, can that trigger asthma or worsen other conditions?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So it can cause a lot of sinusitis, bronchitis, asthma exacerbations, basically missing school, missing work, and your quality of life, improving your sleep, your function. So it's good to get tested if your symptoms are not controlled, allergy tested. And then the ultimate treatment would be allergy injections against the specific things that you're allergic to. And that produces an immunity to these different pollens that you're allergic to.
So is there a point, like you would say, like a breaking point when someone should go to an allergist?
When it's interfering with your life, I would say, and you're not sleeping, you're not functioning, the medicines aren't working, you're tired of taking the meds all the time, then it's definitely a time to be, or if you're having a lot of asthma exacerbations and you need to get it checked out, so that would be another time, I'd say.
So asthma is a result sometimes of these allergens. And so what kinds of treatments are out there now and what's kind of new and happening in that region?
So over the last 10 years or so, and it's been in the past more 5, I guess, we're seeing a lot of what we call biologic treatments for asthma. The ones traditionally people may have heard of are for rheumatoid arthritis, some of these other types of biologics, but these are specifically for asthma. That patients that have a lot of high eosinophils, which are cells in the blood that cause a lot of inflammation in the lungs. And so the pharmaceutical companies have come out with a lot of medications dealing or targeting these eosinophils or other inflammatory mediators that we can find in the bloodstream or in the lungs, and targeting that directly and making it kind of tailored treatment, if you will, without using steroids. So they don't reduce your immunity. They help your quality of life tremendously. They work pretty quickly once they're started. They're usually given every 2 weeks to every 8 weeks, depending on the medication. Some are given at home, some are given in the office. But they've really it's a huge difference in terms of patients' lives, in terms of being in the hospital. It's just been a total game changer. Before, we would have to just rely on prednisone or steroids, which is not a great thing. So we rarely use that nowadays chronically because these medicines are just so good now but you have to get evaluated to see if you qualify and all those kind of things.
So is it like a medication or is it a whole lifestyle kind of preview?
It's a medication. It's an injection. And like I said, they're given, like I said, every 2 weeks. They're subcutaneous. They're not like I am or not really orally at this point in time. But it eventually, yes, will help your lifestyle in terms of by staying on this injection medication with your other inhalers.
So when I'm thinking about hearing some of those words like inflammation, I immediately am thinking about diet. Does that have any influence?
No, not on particularly on this part, but this is more inflammation within the lungs that you can measure. We have something called a FeNO, or fractional excretion of nitric oxide. We measure in the office, and that measures inflammation. And then these eosinophilic cells in the blood are also an indirect marker of inflammation if it's associated with the symptoms that you have with asthma.
Very cool. That's really a unique way. I love to hear about the technology. Is there any, actually, just specifically thinking about allergies, is there any new technologies or anything being developed there as far as preventing them or alleviating those symptoms a little better?
Not so much. I mean, there are some biologics that are available now for like food allergy for prevention, not for treatment per se, but that was approved last year for if you have peanut allergy or tree nut allergy, that would allow you to ingest it by accident without having to go to the ER. But it's a monthly treatment, and it doesn't cure you anything, but it helps tremendously your life if you're not watching what you're eating and happen to go into the ER. So that has been a game changer for some of those patients.
Are there any other prevention tools, I guess, people can use to prevent forming allergy symptoms or allergies themselves?
Prevention, picking the right parents, I guess.
I mean, that's fair.
Limiting your exposure levels,
Yeah.
I'd say. But even moving, like if you moved out west, or because people, I got to move out of here now. But yeah, moving out west or moving to south, the seasons may be different, but over time, because they've planted all the allergenic things to make it look nice, the grasses or whatever, you're still going to get exposure levels to these different things. You still have the genes with you, in you, So things develop kind of at all places, except if you go more in the colder environments up north, where the seasons are much shorter, but people don't want to move way up to the north, like Minnesota, Alaska, Canada, where it's really cold. So.
Yeah. Funny, I've lived in all of those places.
Okay.
But, Minnesota, a lot of allergies. It's still, you can't escape.
It's short, but it's there. But it's short.
I've heard, too, about people moving to the desert, but that's still, you're saying, still you'll be exposed to allergens.
Yeah, unless you're on a reservation or something, maybe that may be helpful there, but, it's not. Then you got, so.
No escape.
No escape. Underwater, maybe.
I mean, whatever your options are.
Space.
We don't know yet,
yeah,
right?
That's right.
That's the next frontier.
That's right.
Well, so is there anything else that you could give us tip-wise, best ways to manage seasonal allergies to make it a more, comfortable time?
Well, identifying what you're allergic to is definitely number one. A lot of times people don't know, and some people do know sometimes if it's an animal is somewhat easy, but some of the other, like the different trees or the different weeds or grasses, it's helpful to know what you're allergic to so that if you do want to do, and I recommend allergy injections, then there's a specific way to help the treatment outside of just taking the medicines all the time, which just treat the symptoms. So identification and then avoidance measures, whether it's physical avoidance or air quality kind of improvements, air filters, and then medications, and then if you want to do the injections, which is a whole different thing, but it is more specific kind of a treatment. It's not for everybody, but if you're that severe, it definitely can be a game changer in terms of life.
For those who do want to test like what allergies and identify what allergies they have, what's the process for getting an allergy test?
The testing, they have to be off of any kind of antihistamine orally if they're taking that for 5 days. The testing is done in 2 parts. We do this in kids as well, so even down to age 1 or 2, depending on what it's for. But anyway, it's done on the back. We touch or prick the skin on the back with a different allergen that's dipped in the specific allergen. And then we wait 15 minutes. Then we measure the size of the reaction that's there. If some of those are negative, we inject a teeny diluted amount onto the skin, onto the arms, and then wait 15 minutes again. And then we'll have all the results at the end of that period of time.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Pallares, for your expertise, and thank you so much for being here on Track.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Dr. David Pallares is a board-certified allergist with family allergy and asthma and over 20 years of experience. He was named one of Louisville's top allergy doctors by Louisville Magazine in 2013 and 2017. On Track is a production of Louisville Public Media. The On Track production team includes Michelle Tyreen Johnson, Jacob Munoz, Alex Biscardi, and Laura Ellis. If you're just tuning in and you want to hear the full show, you can find it now at LouisvilleOnTrack.org or in your favorite podcast app. And let's continue the conversation. Is there something you want to hear about? Something that matters to your Kentuckiana experience? Let us know by sending us a text or giving us a call at 502-814-TALK or send an email to ontrack@lpm.org. I'm Aisha Jaffer, and remember, when you check the air, you can plan with care. Until next time, you're on Track with Louisville Public Media.